Customizing your WordPress design is not something that's an easy task. In this short video, I'm planning to show you a little bit about the proper steps on how you might be able to start customizing your theme. Now, as with any WordPress project, every theme is different. So what I'm going to do on this theme may not be the exact same steps for your current theme, but the theory should be there. I've got my front end open on a tab, and I've got my back end, the dashboard, open on a tab. And the first thing I want to do is just kind of go over, first and foremost, how we can even get to the code view on the WordPress dashboard. We can do so by going to Appearance and Editor. Once you go to Appearance and Editor, it takes you to a code screen, and it tells you right up here which file you're currently editing. It always starts with the theme's primary CSS file. Now, most themes will have somewhat of a commented CSS. Usually they're pretty organized. You might see different sections about typography or layout, but generally speaking, what I do is I will scroll all the way down to the bottom of this file, and I'll add a section just for myself, and I'll even put a comment there that says, these are custom rules that Alan has edited. That way there's no doubt that anything that I've added to this, it can put down here. Now, the first thing I want to point out about the code view here in WordPress is that there is no undo. Okay, there's no undo. So first, you either want to make some backup copies of your files. If you're going into FileZilla, you can simply go into the server, go into the WP content folder, and then you can you'll see a folder called Themes, and you can go into your Themes folder and back up the entire folder that way. Typically, what I do when I'm working here in Code View is I will click anywhere here inside the Code View, do a Control A or Command A, depending on if you're on a Mac or a PC. But to select all, Command A will select all, and I'll copy that. Control C to copy, and then I'll go out to my favorite text editor and simply paste that in. And I'll leave this open. That way, if I make a change and I break something, I can always come back and copy what's in my text editor and paste it back into here. Now, the majority of the changes you'll make will be here in the CSS file. That's a good thing, that you can keep all of your changes in one primary place. But this isn't the only file that we're allowed to change. As you can see on this right-hand column, there's a bunch of templates that we can change. Think of a template as a portion of your layout. There's four very, very common areas, or four very common templates that you might want to look at. One is header.php. Just for kicks, we'll glance over there. Header is going to include everything, including starting with your beginning HTML tag. It'll have the head tag, and it'll go all the way down to typically the opening body tag, and maybe even some of the beginning layout elements. In this case, I can see the body tags right up here, so I can see that there's certainly some sort of div called page, and here's my header. I've got a masthead and so on. So the file called header.php is going to include the opening HTML tags and the beginning of the layout. In a similar fashion, the file called footer.php is going to include the stuff towards the bottom of the page. You see, it really starts with a closing div tag. It's closing up the main div, and then I actually have a footer tag, and then my closing body and closing HTML. So header has everything at the beginning, footer has everything at the end, and all these other PHP files are going to include everything in between. And I said there were four files. That's pretty common. The third that I'll point out is Sidebar.php. This generally is going to include everything in your sidebar. Now, of course, with some of the newer themes, you may have more than one sidebar, so this could get pretty hefty, but by default, it's pretty small. The fourth file you might consider looking at is the one simply called index. .php. It might say main index template, but that's going to be generally your content area. Anything that's not the header, the footer, or the sidebar, which generally speaking is going to be the rest of the content, that's going to be included there. Now, I don't recommend going in and changing your PHP files, but you can see from this quick glance that they do include quite a bit of HTML code. There are many other templates in here that you can certainly go in and play with. Your 404 template, for example, is sort of your error message page. Your archives is going to be essentially a page that's going to show multiple posts at the same time, so maybe a category might fall under archives. We've also, in this particular theme, got a category template, so it's a little bit different than the archives one. And this one has a lot of really sort of customized. Anything you see that starts with a lowercase letter is going to be very specific to your theme. So we're hoping to stay all the way down at the bottom under styles, under the file called style sheet or style.css. Now real quick, I'm going to jump back over to the front end of my page, and I want to do a quick demo that shows maybe what the best method, or one of the best methods is to start changing some things. Now I use Chrome, and I think this feature I'm about to show you is available with the newer versions of Firefox. Used to, you'd have to download a plugin called Firebug to do this, but I'm just going to stick with Chrome because it's built in. Let's say that I would like to change the background color of this this black section here. I've got this nav bar up top and I've got this sidebar, and I would like to change the color there. Now this might be one background color, it might be two. I would almost assume it'll be two because it looks like these are more than likely two different divs. One going across and one going top to bottom. The easiest way to do this while you're in Chrome is to right-click in the area you'd like to change and go down to Inspect Element. Inspect Element. And what'll happen is it'll pull up this code editor down here, and it'll highlight the code that you have just right-clicked on, or it'll highlight pretty close to it. Now, as I roll my mouse around down here on the bottom of the screen on this code, you can see things highlight up in the preview. Now, when I go ahead and click on this line of code that it highlighted, so that it highlights that header in blue, I can come over here to the right side of my code and I can see all the CSS for it. And sometimes you'll have to scroll down a little bit. Colors are usually pretty easy to see, and no big colors are standing out on that. Now I can move my mouse around a little bit more and I can see that there's a header tag above this that also highlights that entire area. So maybe the one called header main is sort of a div within a bigger div called masthead. When I highlight masthead, again, all of this highlights in blue. I can go to my CSS over here on the bottom right. I can scroll down, and I don't have to scroll very far before I see a black color. Now there's a couple of things we can do here. First, we can uncheck and sort of toggle that checkbox on and off to see if that affects that area of our screen. The other thing we can do is we can actually double click inside the color and we can change it right then and there. Now this change isn't going to hold, it's not going to stay forever because it's just allowing me to sort of preview what this change would do. So don't get worried and think, oh no, people can use Chrome and change my website. Only on their computer, and it's very, very, very temporary. As soon as I refresh this page or click a link, all of these changes I'm making are going to go away. So what does this do to help me as far as my WordPress goes? Well, it'll tell me essentially what CSS rule I should be looking for. So when I look at my particular item here, it says site header. There's a class called siteheader.siteheader. I'm simply going to copy it, go back into my dashboard, and I'm looking for site header. If you're scrolling through here saying, man, that's going to take forever to find that, we can hit Control F or Command F on our keyboard, which is find. We can paste in site header, and sometimes there'll be more than one. In this case, it says there's 5 of them. Even lets you scroll through them up here. I can go through all 5, but only one of them has a background color, and that's the very first one. So there we go. I could change that to change my background color. So maybe I'll go ahead and change that to 333. I want that to be a really, really light, a dark gray. I'll hit Update File, go back to the front end and refresh. And there we go. We've got a dark gray color on my header bar now. So that did change. I can see the change. It's very subtle, but it's enough for me to see. I'll see that the looks like this section here, the sidebar didn't change. So I could also right-click anywhere on that, go to Inspect Element, and it'll get pretty close to that area. Now, when I roll over this div called Secondary, I'll see that this section is kind of highlighted in green. The rest is highlighted in orange. Orange typically designates margins or padding, something that's not going to be affected. So when I kind of highlight this secondary, I've got some, all the orange is completely being ignored. I've got the blue highlighted area on the sidebar that I want. I see some green on there too, which also designates maybe some padding. But when I come over to my CSS, I see background color transparent. And that's kind of odd because transparent's typically not one of those options. However, I can click in there, I can change a color, and there's a little alpha slider right down here at the bottom. If I click and drag that alpha slider, sure enough, it changes that section of my screen. So in this case, with this particular theme, they've got the background color set to 0 on alpha, so it's completely transparent. That means the background color is probably going to be changed somewhere else within the WordPress dashboard. Remember that in the dashboard, a lot of themes also have this customize button where you might be able to change something there, or even a background button. So in order for what's happened in the CSS to get overwritten, sometimes they'll place it there, but they'll put the alpha at 0 so it can't be easily seen. I'll do the same thing this time. I'll look at the name of that rule, which is pound secondary. I'll copy that. I'll go to my dashboard on the code editor and I'll search for that. And there again are 5 of them, and I do see background color transparent that again I can come in here and change. Now on a change like this, maybe I don't really want to completely wipe this out. So instead of completely changing it, what I'll do is I'll copy it, paste it on its own line, change the part that I want to change, which will be the color from transparent to pound 333. And I'll simply comment out this first one with a slash asterisk at the beginning and an asterisk slash at the end. It's a CSS comment. When I update that file, it'll quickly tell me it's been updated. I can go back to the front end, refresh, and hopefully this sidebar turns to this same dark gray as my header, and it does. It's almost black, but that helps out. So in quick summary, you can change a lot of code in your WordPress dashboard. My advice is, especially as you're starting out, use Chrome, go to the front end, right-click and do an inspect element to try to pinpoint exactly what it is you want to change, because there's hundreds of lines of code. And you know as well as I do that code is very, very particular. One missed semicolon or one bad character and things go bad real quick. And considering that there's no undos, you really want to be careful and make sure that you're changing the right thing. Of course, there is quite a bit of trial and error to this, but this is a pretty nice routine that's usually the quickest and most efficient for me personally. Is it the only way to do this? No, absolutely not. There's many ways to change your code. But this is one that I found to be very, very efficient, and I know other designers that use it also. So hopefully that helps you start customizing a little bit about your WordPress themes. Again, every theme is different, but hopefully this gets you off to the right start. Thanks for watching.